Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you coming in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is a special edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We'll be speaking to two of our friends, Sheri Fink and Derek Taylor Kent. We're talking about how authors can survive and thrive in the age of the coronavirus. This is a really important conversation and a really, hopefully, a comforting and encouraging conversation. Joining us on the line right now from Southern California. This is a special episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. This is special. We're creating it especially for authors. And we're calling this this episode "How Authors Can Survive and Thrive in the Age of Coronavirus." And here to help us answer those questions are two of our favorite guests. Derek Taylor Kent, the author of the brand new book, Dinosaur Derby, and my favorite mermaid and his wife, Sheri Fink. Derek, Sheri, how are you guys?
We're doing well.
We're doing well. Thank you.
That is great. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. For those of you who live under a rock somewhere and aren't familiar with Derek and Sheri and their whimsical world, these are two very, very successful self-published authors, and they create really magical live events. And when they're at I experienced their booth at the Orange County Children's Book Fair, and it was just a magical place. They know how to market their books. They know how to write amazing books. They know how to market their books at live events. But because of the coronavirus and the panic that is and being very cautious, a lot of those live events are being canceled. So the question is, how can we move forward? So whichever one of you guys wants to take that question first, go right ahead.
I'll start off. I think it's a very, of course, a very serious and dynamic time. Mm-hmm. We, initially we started thinking, okay, well, let's figure out ways to, still fulfill our contractual commitments to do our appearances, but to make it safe for our fans so that they would be comfortable and, minimize touching. So a few weeks ago, we proactively stopped doing handshakes, hugs, and high fives. We now do the namaste bow, which confuses a lot of people, but I'm okay with that because it's a touch-free greeting. Mm-hmm. And we started thinking, okay, well, if we do events, we're gonna do a demo instead of having people come up to the booth and touch all the books and look through them themselves. We will demonstrate them for them infomercial style, which of course will take more time, but it would, I think, make everyone feel more comfortable. There's things like that we were planning to implement. And then we watched, a week ago when it started where our biggest events of the year, that were just right around the corner, started canceling, one after another. And of course, we totally respect their decision and honestly probably wouldn't have felt too safe being a part of it, given how the spread of the coronavirus is so prolific and unpredictable at this point. We proactively decided to postpone an event that was going to be in a few weeks for the Dinosaur Derby premiere party, which is Derek's brand new book. And we always do a huge event. It's always interactive and fun with games and all kinds of cool things going on, face painting and, but we talked about it and we're like, okay, can we assure that all of our fans and their families go home happy and healthy? And if we can't, then it's our responsibility not to hold the event. And so we've just decided to postpone it. Probably until the fall, maybe summer. We'll see. When the time feels right, we'll announce that it's going to come again. But I think it's incumbent upon us to take personal responsibility to not, to take it lightly. We want to be very serious about the situation, and our events are always about fun and family and inspiring kids to love reading. But there's ways that we can do that don't require them to put their families at risk.
You bring up a really good point, and to go back to one of the first things that you said, the no-touch greeting, for me, that's incredibly difficult. I respect your choice, and it's definitely something that I'm trying to implement. I'm a person who, if I'm doing a school show and there's 500 kids, I will do my best to shake hands with every single one of those kids. It never occurred to me until I was at a school in New Jersey, and I literally shook 400 kids' hands as they were coming through. They just coming through they're entering, exiting one door, and I was shaking hands with every kid. And there was a teacher at the end of the line, and I reached out to shake her hand, and she said, there's a stomach bug going through this school. I ain't touching your hand. And it's true where, we have all these kids. You're at an event like the Orange County Children's Book Fair. I imagine you probably hugged 1,000 kids and shook hands with 1,500 kids. And we're spreading the germs that they bring us.
Yeah, and adults too.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, people love to touch you, and it's great. But right now, we're just, respectfully keeping our distance.
Yeah, I loved that too, Jessie. At every school visit, I try and high five as many kids as I could. I would literally hold my hand up high, and every kid, because I'm pretty tall, I'm
Derek
6'4".
6'4",
yeah.
so
I'd play a game with the kids where I'd hold up my hand and they'd try and jump up and see if they can touch it, right? See how high they can jump, and all the kids would line up to go do that. That was part of the fun activities that we would do there when they were leaving. I had to stop. I had to stop doing it, not only because of this, but Sheri and I would end up getting colds after every school visit.
Yeah.
Derek, don't you love the 4-year-old little girl who comes up to you to give you a high five, and then she winds up to Mississippi and hits your hand, hits in the way it breaks your thumb.
Yeah, those are fun. Some kids try and hit it as hard as they can. Yeah. So I think it's important to but the idea is that we're doing that to form a connection with the kid and add a little bit more fun. But you still want to do that, but how can we find other ways to do that where they still feel the connection, still feel like they got noticed and got some attention, and but still keep it fun while also being safe. So this is the challenge that authors who are doing school visits and events that do happen are going to have to think about right now, and which could be around for the next year or so.
Yeah, and we have to lead by example. Kids are going to follow our example, whether it's good or not. And one of the things that we really want to be is a good role model for the type of behavior that, is appropriate right now. Mm-hmm. So these little things make a big difference. Even such as something that we were talking about is we usually have a mailing list sign-up sheet on our booth. It's just on a clipboard, and people can sign up when they come visit us. And we were like, you know what? Let's make this a no-touch situation. Let's keep the clipboard behind the table, and let's ask them if they want to join. We'll go ahead and write it for them. It takes more time, and it might, we might cut into our sales because we're doing this other thing, but it's more respectful to keeping the distance with the fans and keeps them safe too. So there's just little things like that we were planning to make adjustments, but now, our focus has shifted because before it was how can we make these events a success and feel good for everybody? And now we're more okay, well, given that we're not going to be doing events for the short term, hopefully just short term, until it's safe again, how can we continue to run our business? And most importantly, how can we continue to stay relevant to our fans, to reach them in their homes and continue to inspire them to love reading and to fall in love with themselves and build their self-esteem and support the parents and the teachers who are doing this thing from a distance in many cases now.
Yeah.
So that's how we're shifting our focus.
And one of the things that you mentioned that never occurred to me, because I don't consider germs, and it drives my wife crazy sometimes. But the whole idea of you're at a book fair and you have that book out on your table, and that may get picked up by 20 or 30 different people. And and they're kids, and they touch it, and they wipe their nose, and they touch the book again, and another kid comes along and picks it up, and so there's a lot to consider that I think a lot of us just haven't thought of.
Yeah, like we didn't really mind before. Before it was just there wasn't anything that was too serious about that. We would always watch for sticky fingers, and the kid had a lot of times they come over having just downed a popsicle, and, and they're literally covered in it. So you always had to watch out for that. But if we're doing in-person events, if things do happen, there are a couple still coming up that are smaller events that haven't canceled that we're expecting to do. We gotta figure out ways to still be able to show them the books, create this experience while keeping it safe for them. While also figuring out ways how to perhaps move the business to being a more online and in a digital environment. How can we create our special whimsical brand and bring it to kids and parents without the events? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the bread and butter for us. We just had to hear that Tucson Festival of Books canceled, and then the LA Times Festival of Books. These are literally our two biggest events of the year. Over 100,000 people at each event come. And it's kind of, our bread and butter for our business and to make new fans and see our old fans who are coming and excited to get our new books. So we really have to, we're figuring a lot of things out along the way here and how we might have to adapt. It's all about adaptability right now.
Yeah. And we've been watching the coronavirus developments since January. I think the reason it caught my attention, because I'm not usually a, watch the news person, is that there were so many first person accounts, people posting their own videos and about what they were experiencing when it was still pretty unknown. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is concerning. This is probably going to affect us, and I'm just being worried about the people there and the kids and how it's affecting them and their families. So we've really been making slow adjustments in the way that we do it. And we've been working on contingency plans for our business probably since early February, seeing ahead in time and saying, okay, this is going to be a thing,
I think I realized it. There was a very ironic thing that happened at one of my events, our school visit shows, because I do a whole show about my book, Principal Mikey, which is a chapter book about a 10-year-old kid who becomes principal of his school. And as part of my show, I was doing this, big show for hundreds of kids.
In the last week of January.
It was January 28th.
Yeah.
I remember the day. It was, the kids get to solve a school mystery, and the school mystery is where a vicious flu virus is coming from in the school. And they have to solve a bunch of clues to try and figure out the location of where the virus is in the school.
Using the scientific method.
Yeah, we teach them the scientific method in that show. And as soon as I said it, like, there's a vicious flu virus going around the school, a kid in the back shouts out, "Oh no, it's the coronavirus!" And this was when it was just only in China still, and there was only a couple thousand cases. It wasn't anywhere else in the world, but they already knew about it and were scared. And I looked, as soon as it happened, I was like, oh no, my show's probably gonna have to change, because this is gonna be not fun and funny very soon,
Yeah.
Well, you bring up a couple of points that I think a lot of authors don't think about. One of the things that's always impressed me about both of you is you're incredibly talented authors, and writing is your passion. And Sheri, you have a really strong mission to help kids develop their social emotional awareness and skills. But you're approaching this as a business. And you understand that, that being a business person, running a company, running a business, is just as important as putting words on the page. And I think a lot of authors, they don't get that. They don't think it's like, oh, I'm going to write my book. If I'm going to self-publish it, I'm going to get a big shipment of books. And, for a lot of them, the books sit in their basement or in their garage. You both of you have a very clear marketing plan of how we're going to do this. And you're also taking a look at this situation and thinking it through like business people. And I'm just emphasizing this because, one of the things that we've talked about on the show is when you become an author, whether you're a self-published or even published by a traditional publishing house, you're the person who's most responsible for marketing the book.
Mm-hmm. So true. And I feel like this is an opportunity to evolve. Yes. I feel like too often we figure out something that works as humans and we rely on that a lot. Mm-hmm. And for us, I was like, this is a pretty unprecedented golden opportunity for us to not be distracted for a few weeks and to really hunker down and focus on where the business is going and to drive it that direction rather than just, let's see what works. Oh, let's do that again. I think it's an opportunity to be more strategic. And like, for example, we can do Skype visits. Yep. With schools. We've been doing them with schools who don't have the budget to bring in author speakers. But we could ramp up that program. Mm-hmm. Another thing that we have done very strategically is we have held the ebook editions of many of our new books have not come out yet. And we are thinking, well, perhaps we could greenlight a few of those and do it in a fun way so that kids are at home, the parents can say, oh my gosh, okay, let's get these ebooks. So they have something new to read and they don't have to, go to a library or a situation that could possibly put them in contact with someone who could potentially have the virus. Mm-hmm.
Also got a podcasting setup like you have, but we're going to use it to record more audiobooks ourselves. We won't have to go out. If we're quarantined, you might not be able to go out in the world, even to a studio to record our audiobooks. Mm-hmm. We'll be able to self-record audiobooks from home now. Mm-hmm. Like she said, focusing a little bit more on ebooks for now, because I think if there is a situation where in other countries where there is a quarantine and you can't leave the house, it could be a really good opportunity for authors out there. What are they going to do? They're going to want to read, right? Adults are going to want to read their books, and they're going to need a lot of books for their kids if they're having to be home a lot more, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. And we've had a long-term project that we've been working on for several months before this even came out, to upgrade our Whimsical World website, mm-hmm. the whimsicalworldbooks.com, and that's going to debut hopefully in the next week or so. But that's been something we've been working on since last year, and it just so happens that the timing is good. And, people at this point, people can still order from our website and we'll personalize it to the child and we'll sign it and we'll put, some surprises in the package for them and make it special. So I think those are things that, I was thinking too, like, okay, well, if we were isolated at home or whatever, we live in Los Angeles and it's probably, it's a pretty dense population. There's probably a high likelihood that we're safer at home than going out. Mm-hmm. Just in general. Yeah. So we're going to use this opportunity. We've got a whole list of things, not only, things to take care of for the business, like behind the scenes things that we don't normally have time to dedicate to, but also, personal things like getting our taxes done and, working on our wills, like just things like that have been on our perpetual list for a while, and we're going to get it done. And we have a list of fun things too, because I think sometimes we're not used to being bored. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, just in case we do get bored, I've got a list, like a fun list.
Well, yeah, I think it's really important too. People are starting to panic, and if you kind of look at this situation instead of thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to be locked in my house for 2 weeks. Do I have enough toilet paper? Take it take it in the direction that you're taking it. What have I been putting off? What haven't I had time to do? Yes, I got to get the taxes done, and I have to get the taxes done on this end too. And so, yeah, just, Sheri is someone who's writing about social emotional issues. We're always encouraging our kids to, not stress and not feel that anxiety and to be thankful. Well, let's try to find the things to be thankful for in this situation. We are going to get through it. We are going to survive. We're going to be able to support each other. And in the meantime, how can we, how can we help ourselves not get anxious and freaked out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember back in 2008, and this is the closest thing I could think of that was close to the way it is now, and everyone was so worried back then about the book industry and what would happen with it. But as it happened, that's when I got my first big book deal, was right in the heart of it. Mm-hmm. And I was very surprised that it happened. And my agent was telling me how even in these tough times, it can actually be really good for the book industry because books are kind of an inexpensive form of entertainment, especially for kids, and kids will always need books no matter what. Mm-hmm. And parents will always want to buy their kids books no matter what is going on in the world. It's not as much of a luxury item for things that can decline, like what is probably going to happen now with airlines and cruises. Mm-hmm. So books are something that's at home, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it could be really good for the book industry in that way, but you could see a lot of negative effects too. So we're in a major time of uncertainty because like the publishers may not be able to even get their books printed anymore and get them delivered because that's all done in China by then, right?
Right.
So you could see a major boost in ebooks and audiobooks because of that.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I think is like, as writers, most of us are natural introverts. Mm-hmm. So this is our time. We've been preparing for this for our whole lives, right? What beautiful opportunity to just sit down and write. I think there's going to be so many amazing books that come out of this time period because people actually have the distraction-free time to just do it. Mm-hmm. I'm finishing up my new book, and it's I love doing events, but it's a little refreshing to not have to get up and go all the time. Like, right. I'm actually enjoying not doing makeup. Like it's a treat right now. I think you have to look at the good, and especially when we're talking to children about it.
Right.
I think their fears feel very real, and I think giving them the opportunity to share them with us and to encourage them to be open about how they're feeling, and then to just reassure them like we're always there for them. Like, this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. We can choose to make it a hell for them, or we can choose to make it a paradise, and of course there are severe situations that are out of control that could be bad, but in your home, if that's where you are, and like I know I think it was like 270,000 students as of today are doing online school. Mm-hmm. What a beautiful opportunity to get closer to our families. I don't think Americans have been very home centric. Probably not my whole life. Mm-hmm. And so what a wonderful opportunity to really get to know your kids and to really connect with them. And if you're planning these fun things, like, I have silly little ideas like, let's have a picnic in the living room, let's do things like that. Like make it like a camping experience, right? Like, to just make fun things like, oh, tonight's board game night, or, tonight we're going to do a Star Wars marathon, or today's pajama day. We're wearing pajamas all day. Like, every day's pajama day for me. But, I think, not to make light of it, but I think you have to bring the joy to the situation because it's a heavy situation. I mean, unprecedented in our lifetimes. Mm-hmm. And, I think it's, like I said, a big opportunity to be authentic, to be honest, and to also, give support and love to the people who mean the most to us.
And that's the thing I think is most important. We are, as parents, our kids are looking to us. They're looking to us to, so they know how to react to this. And if they see us panicking and losing our heads, well, there's nothing but that our kids can do. So it's a perfect time to grow closer with our kids, pick up those books, read them, read the ebooks, spend time together, talk, shut off the screens, and just talk with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Anything in terms of helping authors thrive business wise? Are you planning on doing anything different in the social media world?
Honestly, I haven't been posting a lot because our landscape is changing every single day. We had promoted several events and then the events got canceled, so we announced the cancellations and took those posts down. And I think it's I'm the kind of person, like, I post when I'm inspired to, and when I'm not, I don't. And I've been just handling all the business stuff, like, that we've been, canceling travel arrangements and doing all of those things lately. So, we still have a promotion going on with a company, and I posted an article about, how we're running our business during the coronavirus. But, other than that, I haven't really changed my strategy. It's just, there hasn't been anything I felt the need to share lately. And I think authors should not feel pressured to keep up a veneer of everything's good, if it's not. And I also don't think you have to share the depths of your despair if you're going through a tough time. Yeah. I think everybody has to decide. I want to empower them to decide what's right for them, and their brand. And, I'm in communication with my mom and my sister all the time. Like, we text each other every day, and they're a tremendous support staff. Like, I think, you don't have to find your support on social media. I think it can be good for that, but there's also a lot of, there's a lot of people who are really angry and very fear-based right now. Mm-hmm. And that's causing a lot of anger. And for me, I like to keep a lot of peace and harmony. So I'm very selective about, the types of influences I will invite into my mind, including on social media. And it's a great source of information, but you have to balance it too. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think each author will, really have to figure out if, how you're using social media at this point to, share information. There's a lot really needed and valuable information that people are getting from it. Yes. And if it's something that you're trying to keep your business going through social media, you have to be kind of sensitive about it, because people aren't necessarily going to want to hear a sales pitch in the middle of a crisis.
Right.
Yeah.
It can feel insensitive, and kind of oblivious. So, if your book does offer something that could help them, I think that might be a good chance to share that with people. Mm-hmm. 'Cause everyone's going to be struggling with their businesses right now. Everyone is, like, the restaurants, from travel to anyone that's like has a presence in the real world is gonna have a really hard time coming up. So we're gonna all have to figure out ways to support one another through it. And I think social media could be a great gateway to do that. Yeah. But we're gonna also have to figure out other ways too.
Yeah. I think for me, my gauge is always add value. I don't engage, like, with people who say it's not real or whatever. That's their perspective, but gravity exists. Like, you can disagree with it, you can rage against it, you can tell people they're stupid for believing it, but it's still, at the end of the day, gravity is a real thing, and it will affect you. Try jumping off a building. It will tell you it's real. So I think, it doesn't, at least for me, it doesn't serve me to engage in, conversations about, like, arguing with people about their perspective. I'm more interested in supporting people who need the support and encouraging people to keep a good attitude and, to be smart and strategic. Like, I think it is smart to have canned foods. I think it is smart to have enough water and even toilet paper. You don't need a mountain, but but to have the comforts of home, if you're going to be staying in your home a lot, which most of us are not used to doing, it's wise to have things that you enjoy and that you will eventually need to use. Yeah. So I think if you haven't done that, like, that's probably a good thing to do. You could order online or just make a quick trip. If I were you, I'd go at the non-common times, middle of the night at a 24-hour store, or really early in the morning when something opens early, and get it done so that you have the peace of mind. Because I think the thing too is, like, a lot of times these things hit and there's such a shock to the system because we feel unprepared. But with this particular situation, we have the benefit of having sadly watched all these other countries go through it. So it's not a matter of, oh, we're isolated, it's not going to affect us. It's already affecting us. And now, while you can still go out to the store, I think it is a good thing to get, a reasonable amount of food for your family that you'll need, just so you can go home and feel like at peace, like, oh, I've got what I need.
Sure.
I think a big part of thriving in this climate is going to be, in a way, not holding back doing some of the spending you would normally do for your business if the business isn't there. So if it's the case where it's just not a good time to be investing in new books and new events for us, we probably won't have to do that. We have to save what we have so that when everything does come back online, we're ready, and we haven't already spent our business budget for this for what we'll need in the future.
That's a really good point. So, for example, for people who are planning a book launch in a month or so, unless you already have your books in hand, it might be wise to consider waiting to print your books because it's a big expense. And there's great places you can go, like Ingram Spark is good for printing in the U.S. and, but even that could be affected. You don't know if you're going to be able to do a launch party or those kinds of things. So if you can wait to make the investment to when you can be sure that you're going to receive the shipment and be able to sell the books, that's a good strategic choice. So I think it's just thinking forward and oh, well, this was my plan. I'm not just going to roughly stick to my plan no matter what, be very rigid. You have to be very fluid. And I think this is a big opportunity for us to evolve as authors and to say, okay, what is the market doing? Not the stock market, but our fan base. Oh, well, they're at home. They're with their families. They're doing online school for some of them for the first time ever.
Right.
They're using technology. I heard that laptops are actually a huge thing right now. A lot of companies are selling out. And I think it's because there's so much home, online learning from home. And if we can find a way to reach people through those devices that they're getting, and then encourage them to read, that's a great thing. There's a lot of ways that we could do that I've never seen before that we're brainstorming right now and we'll be implementing over the next few weeks. So it's I think at this time, it's sad to see the companies that will be hurting, but there's an opportunity for us all to come up with something new and fresh and exciting that can still help people given the current circumstances.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you both have taken the time to share your wisdom. I think one of the things, if you're an author out there and you have time and you have your supplies and you're with your family and you're safe and you have an extra minute, maybe one of the things you can do with that extra time is to find a great marketing book or a great business book so that you can sit down and start thinking like a business person and developing your strategy for the next step for when, like Derek and Sheri said, when things come back, so you can be ready to just take a more business-like approach to the sale and marketing of your books.
I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah, it's the time to create and educate.
Absolutely. Well, we've had a wonderful time speaking to our friends, Derek Taylor Kent and Sheri Fink. Again, remind everybody of your website where we can go and because you guys have created a whimsical world, it might be a great place to visit in this time of anxiousness.
Yes, our company's website is whimsicalworldbooks.com. And you also can find Sheri's website at sherifink.com, SHERIFINK. And I'm at derektaylorkent.com, DEREK.
Derek, Sheri, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thanks so much.
We hope that you found some comfort, some encouragement, and some great ideas to think about in this special edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We do hope you will join us for our regular episodes. We publish every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You can find us on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so very, very special. Of course, our guests, Sheri Fink and Derek Taylor Kent. I want to thank my team here at the podcast. I want to thank my producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. And I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. But most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for being part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Thank you so much for being calm, for thinking, for comforting your kids, for taking the time to make the world a better place, a safer place, a calmer place. And one of the best ways to do that is to read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.